This deadline like for you? We obviously know about the Garland acquisition. How busy were you? How many things were you in on?
Yeah, so the deadline happens today at 3 o'clock, but for us, the planning goes in way before. We went in, started weeks ago, but Monday talking about what we feel like we need for our team to take the next step. We didn't come a lot around with a lot of things that we felt we
Yeah.
needed, except we wanted to add a forward, someone that could score and help the top six, the top two lines. So we went in with that thinking as it progressed through Wednesday, Thursday. We talked about a few players. As you know, there's some other players that were moved, and we really focused on Connor, and we're able to continue those dialogues with Vancouver for multiple days, Wednesday, Thursday, and then finally got to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. And you may not agree with this, but you may not have the high end off the charts 100-point type elite offensive talent. But do you feel like you've got the offensive depth now to sort of counter that both regular season and into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think we've proven that. You look at last night, and then you got three lines, and the fourth line's going to chip in here and there. But we got three lines that can score goals. I think last night, I already remember. I think Libya hit a couple of them.
Yeah.
That seems like so far long ago. We thought on the Bedford. But adding another piece that can bring that to us was something we felt we needed. To be able to have something that's. And the other thing, contracts just like continue to escalate, and we're signing that getting a player that's 29, soon to be 30. Cost certainly is important.
Yeah.
Because as you go in, it's free to see guys that are 33, 34 years old all want the same 5-6 year terms, and getting a guy at his age, knowing what the cost is. Well, you look around this, they're in a situation, obviously they're going through a little transition there, whether they're rebuilding or retooling, as our famous words are being used now, looking to move some players out. And so, and I was pretty clear the last little bit that we're not in the rental market. I have 5 UFAs that are rentals. If we're going to make these assets to trade for guys, we want to look for people that had term. And it was the same thing throughout the last couple of days. Anybody we talked about with all guys, we had terms. When we knew that Connor was going to be made available by Vancouver, we were pretty aggressive to get.
You were able to go out and get Garland, and then within a couple hours before that Marchment leaves the game. Have you learned anything about him today?
Yeah, I think we're all good. Both Fabro and Mason are day to day at this point. All this MRI and all of that came back negative today. And obviously, it was something I was curious about how it was going to be. I talked to our trainer around the moon, and both guys are day to day. They could be in the lineup tomorrow or as soon as Monday.
Go back to Ryan.
Yeah.
Were you close on any other deals? And do you believe this team right now can compete and win a Stanley Cup?
Yeah, taking that step to the Stanley Cup's a big, there's only one winner each year. So just sit here and say we're a Stanley Cup team, there's steps to take there. Do I believe that we're in that direction? Absolutely. Do I believe we can get in the playoffs and win some rounds with this hockey club? Yes. If you look at, again, I go back and look at the season as a whole, where, we were frustrated how we were losing games. And now, I think we've gotten 27 of our last 32 points we've got, which is unbelievable that you've gone that kind of run. I never thought we were as bad as what our record was. I thought we were always better than what our record should have been. So when you talk about rental players, and at the deadline here, this is a great group of guys. We've been very fortunate here. We got 2 years in a row here. The guys that we had in Coyle and Woods and Lundstrom, they have fit in very, very well. These guys done it. They've proven they can be a very good team. And, I always look at, they have that opportunity to take it to the next level. I've never gotten caught up with the UFAs that you have to turn them all into assets. Just don't buy that. There's years if you're completely out of it, maybe it's a little different. But if we're competing as we've competed all year to pull some kind of asset out of that locker that's done a pretty good job for us, just to get something for 3, 4 years, 5 years on the road, that doesn't make sense to me.
Mike, just to follow up to that, when did you know you weren't a seller, and what were your conversations like with your UFAs in particular?
Yeah, well, before the Olympic break, I had a good feeling that we weren't going to be sellers the way we were playing. You were looking at playing. I had conversations with all our UFAs during the break, and came to the conclusion that it was March and not May and June. What you're asked for in March, it might be different in June. So I just felt that, and I thought it would really, and as I thought about it, I thought it would hurt the locker room if I signed one and not the rest, and signed two and not the other. So I just decided none of them were close. Let's just put it off, call all the agents and say, we'll talk at the end of the year. Not going to talk during the year. When the season's over, I've said before, and I did it last year, I've done it for years. If a player wants to be here and we want him here, we'll find a way.
Just one more for me. Connor Garland's numbers have been down the last couple of years. How did that play into your thinking and the way you scouted and perceived this player?
Yeah, they was down last year. I know this year they've been down, but you got to look at the situation also, which we've done. Studied them hard, we scouted them hard. We think in our environment with players he's going to have that opportunity to play with, that he will come back to be that 20-goal scorer that he's been in the past.
You chose not to address the defense and the goaltending. What have they been able to show you which you didn't have to address those?
Yeah, I first of all, we just won 3 games without our best player, Arensky, and that's pretty impressive. So that means other guys have stepped up, and in those 3 games, yes, we gave up 4 in New York, but I think we gave up 2 and 2 with Florida and the game before. The goaltending and defense have done a good job. We'll be comfortable with them, all year when we're, if we're healthy, which obviously it's always nice when you're to get your best player back. We're comfortable, goaltending is it gets so put on the spotlight because so the goal goes in that we don't like, it's always a goalie's fault. We forget about what happened 200 feet away from us or 100 feet down that caused that problem. Rick's really stressed that, we've cut down over a goal a game against that, everything starts at the other team's end. How we defend coming back is going to be the result. And I think we've all seen we've given up a lot less on-man rushes since Rick's taken over because of that reason. You got to give your goalies, they're gonna have to make some saves sometime. Let's face it, they got to make some saves, and they have been. But you got to give them the support, and we're doing a better job. So I just felt Rick and I talked about it the last few days. Very comfortable with what we had.
You mentioned your best player. Do you have a sense of when you might be able to expect him back on the ice?
Saw him today. Talked to him about Garland, and fully expect he's going to come. He skated today for a minute. He's eating. Unless something goes sideways, I think he'll play tomorrow.
Don, it's an interesting situation with Garland where he committed to Vancouver last year with the extension. Then he gets traded before the extension kicks in. Have you talked to him just about where he's at with how his life has changed and what his next 6 years look like? And that no move does go with the contract, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I haven't talked to him that much. It was 12:30 last night when I talked to him, and was more excited on the phone. So I was probably more wore out, so he was probably more excited. He was ecstatic. He's an American kid. And he committed to Vancouver, but he thought they were going in a different direction. He's good friends with Z, friends with Charlie Coyle, from Boston. So my conversation with him last time, 10 minutes we spent was very positive, and he's excited about coming here. And I can't tell you about all the other things that happened. I think when he signed his contract, he was hoping that, Vancouver was going to be a playoff team and and decided to go in another direction. So,
With the 3 UFAs up front that you talked about, does that go into your thought at all when you're acquiring a guy like Garland who has 6 years on his contract in case you can't sign one of those guys next year?
yeah, 100%. And that goes back, I wasn't going to trade for another UFA forward and add another one to the mix. If we're going to trade for one, we wanted to have somebody with term. And, that was important to us because, free agency, you might be able to tweak and add a guy here and there, but you're not going to add 3 or 4 guys. It's just free agency creates more term and more money normally. So that was one of the big things when we went into the trade deadline to look at. And obviously Connor fits that bill well because he's going to be signed for 6 years. Jeff.
Probably haven't had a chance to talk to a ton of guys yet, but maybe you've had some conversations as far as the room and being a seller, adding a piece, keeping this group together, showing faith in it, just what that will do for the room. And, this time of year, you can have an impact on the room, whatever direction you go. How big is that fit?
Yeah, 100%. You can, as good as we're going, we could destroy that room with the wrong moves. I'd let pretty much the UFAs know that they weren't going anywhere. So it's on this point, we're moving along and we're going to try to add to this group. So the mood in the room is critical. And Rick and I talked about it last night. We talked about it today. He's ecstatic that we made the one move, but we didn't move anybody out. We didn't clog up anymore. He said we have great room. We got lots of depth at each position now. So I think the room's going to be fine.
And just with Garland, not the biggest guy, but the competitiveness he plays with and the style of play, he does that fit with what you're trying to build here as far as a style of player?
Yeah, we've added some size here. With Markstrom coming in and see Ronnie, we have some size. So, but he doesn't play small either. He might be 5'10" or whatever by height, but he doesn't play that way. And I think the way he plays is more important to me than his height and size, because he gets in everybody's face. We watch these battles, these one-on-one battles, and he wins these one-on-one battles against these 6'4" guys. And, he's very strong for his up. Obviously he's very stocky and bulky. So I don't think size would be any kind of factor at all.
I know you previously said that you're entertaining any conversations about Rick until the end of the season. Have you at least started thinking about the possibility of bringing back just the way things have gone for you?
No. We made a deal and we talked when we came back and we both agreed that we were just going to stay with the same deal that we had and not, it's what we just talked about a minute ago here. Things are going good. What happens when I get in negotiations and it doesn't go well too? So it's like one of my UFAs. He's a UFA. And when the season's over, we'll sit down and figure out the next steps.
Garland gets in tonight.
Yeah.
You expect he plays tomorrow?
Yeah, he's getting in at 5'10" and I believe 5'30", and he's going to come here. Soon he's going to be ready to go tomorrow. He's going to play tonight in Chicago, so no reason why he can't play tomorrow.
6 for 6. And then you compare that to all these contracts that, are going to come up that you're going to have to keep this thing together, especially with the young guys. Just how big was that, when you looked to your future planning?
Yeah, we do a 5-year plan out for, you should have fertility coming up. We're in 2 years. You got Marchenko coming up. And knowing what the cost is, the cost certainly plays a big factor. Now we know the 6 years, okay, we can pencil this number in at this position and go from there. So, I think you're always looking, this is a hockey team. We're trying to win hockey games, but it's a business and we have to make sure it makes some sense and we got to make sure we control. There's a cap and all that going forward. So we got to keep all those things in mind in every move you make. And certainly, though, in Connor's case, it was a big factor that having that contract for 6 years.
Kind of talking about the cap, I'm just curious. We know some estimates of what it's going to go up pretty large. The ownership here has not ever really had a problem spending up to the cap in the past. Wondering if you've talked to them just about, if it goes up, are they willing to go up with it?
Yeah, Mike Priest, the president, along with the McConnells, we've all talked about it. And if there's a player that's going to make this hockey club better, or players, it's going to cost. They're all in. They want to win. They want to win, and we're very fortunate here. I always haven't been in this situation that you have such support from this ownership. That they're a big part of this community. I'm very proud to be an owner of the Blue Jackets, but they want to win. No, we'll be able to do whatever we need to do to take that next step forward.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.